And we will now move to our third advocate, which I believe is Mr. Frank Sikosha from the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition. Welcome to the committee. I believe, Mr. Sikosha, you're on now, and you may have 5 minutes time to give your presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, members of the committee. My name is Frank Sikosha. I'm the president of the NRA in Rhode Island. I want to speak specifically on Senate Bill 73. Version of the school bill has failed every year that has been presented. And just when you thought they couldn't make a school bill worse, a gun-free zone bill worse, you actually did. This bill is actually a solution looking for a problem. Make sure you're aware of that. Because in 1990, our own Attorney General added a specific exemption to Rhode Island general law, allowing individuals to have a CCW to go on school grounds. Since that time, approximately 31 years, we have had zero, and I mean zero incidents of a CCW holder going on any school grounds and shooting any children. The question for the panel, though, is make sure, even anti-gun people there, do you realize how many the number of actually concealed carry weapons holders we have in Rhode Island? It's less than 4,000. That's in a population of over 1 million people. So do the math real quick. Less than 0.5% of the individuals in Rhode Island have a concealed carry weapons permit. That's the only thing that this bill actually focuses on. Those are your law-abiding citizens, retired police, retired military, people who need their firearms for work. Those people are not the problem, but that's the only thing that's being addressed in this bill. I've heard people, even some politicians over there saying, well, this is a loophole in law we have to fix. It's not a loophole, it's a specific exemption. But I'm telling you now, even the anti-gun people that are here listening, you will create the biggest loophole possible if you pass this bill in this version. Reason being is, if you have a domestic violence victim, a survivor, who actually realizes that a protective order may just be, in his or her case, a piece of paper, they may all go illegally and go out and get a concealed carry weapons permit. They may train themselves. They may be their only line of defense against protecting themselves or their family. If you pass this bill, you will now allow the domestic violence attacker to know exactly when and where that domestic violence survivor is now going to be disarmed. And then, on top of it, you throw a firearm into the mix, which is going to be left unattended in a vehicle. I can't even imagine the police department or the police officers that are on this board and listening would actually be in support of this. That reasoning is absolutely horrendous if you really think about this. And I want the panel, even the anti-gun people, to sit there and think about this. If any of you are honest with yourself, you would ask yourself this question. If you could go back in time and put somebody like me, who's a concealed carry weapons holder, on the grounds at Sandy Hook to take out Adam Lanza before he killed all those kids, would you do it? And the answer is absolutely yes. You have to be, as a legislator, you have to be honest with yourself and say, this bill eliminates, absolutely eliminates any possibility that a concealed carry weapons holder might be there and might be doing something correct. If you really want to try to make it a little bit better, there are ways to do it, but not in this, and not in this aspect. I've heard a lot of stories tonight about people saying this happened and that happened. Let me tell you what happened in my life. I experienced this firsthand. When I went to law school at Roger Williams, I was in Roger Williams. They did not have, Roger Williams University, they did not have a weapons policy. I've been a concealed carry holder since 1996. When I was in school, I would carry concealed. So would all the other uniformed officers and detectives, and I know there were at least 2 other concealed carry weapons holders in that classroom, in the school. One day I could carry, the next day I could not. I can tell you the next day, the second day, I was absolutely defenseless in a school. That's what you're doing to our children. You're putting me in the position, if you pass this, of being absolutely disarmed in a school setting. It doesn't make anyone safer. It makes it absolutely worse. Now, just so that the people that are on this panel, I actually had a hand in writing pretty much most of the bills that are out here, the pro-gun bills. I'd be happy to take any questions on this, any questions on any of the bills that are out there, because there's been a ton of misinformation from both the Attorney General's office and from some of the sponsors of the anti-gun bills, and I would be happy to answer any questions on them.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I do believe Senator Rogers has a question for you.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make a statement, a scenario, and then 2 quick questions after that. So a concealed carry holder under the law on the concealed carry in school has to go pick up his grandkid or he or her has to pick up the grandchild. They can't go on school grounds with it. So before that, it has to be locked up. So somewhere before the school or just off the school grounds, we're going to be having people that have a concealed carry license start unloading and taking a magazine and taking a firearm and unloading one out of the chamber in the seat, in the car. I said, I believe the state police policy is on short term. They recommend not to unload a firearm unless it's for an extended period of time. So I really think that this school bill is going to create a lot more opportunity for accidental mischarges of firearms and possibly death involved. Actually forcing them to unload their firearm unnecessarily outside the school on the street. What's going to happen? Somebody sees somebody getting out of their car, locking it up in the trunk, they're going to call for a firearm. What kind of attention is that going to draw on possible collateral damage? That's just the statement. Now I'm going to get to my 2 questions. In your experience, what's case law regarding pistol permits in Rhode Island tied to these bills? And the second question, on your pistol permit, what's your experience with pistol permit denials? Reasons, are they in common? So that's just my 2 pointed questions to Frank.
All right, let me answer your question with regard to denials of pistol permits. Right now, through my law office, I get calls at least a couple of times a week on individuals getting denied from the Attorney General's office for, in my opinion, ridiculous reasons. I have an individual that was denied a permit. He's had a permit for 40 years through the Attorney General's office and was denied, saying he's now no longer a suitable person. And most people on this panel know, Mike O'Neill, Vice President of the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition, has a concealed carry weapons permit. He's got him in Mass. He's got him all New England states, Utah. He can carry pretty much most of the United States. The Attorney General's office just denied his renewal, saying he wasn't a suitable person. He's a range safety officer, SRO. He's got all sorts of qualifications. We train all the time. The Attorney General's office said, no, you don't get a permit either. The Attorney General's office, depending on whether the Attorney General is anti-gun or pro-gun, the numbers go up and down. I have another one just called yesterday, denied the permit on a renewal. The person has like 30 years of a permit through the Attorney General's office. They're just denying these renewals left and right. This is why, like, one of the bills that we have, and I have to say, unfortunately, it's Senator Coyne's bill, where she wants to centralize the CCW from the cities and towns to the AG. Do you realize, of course, and I testified on this bill several years in a row, it would be immediately unconstitutional. Let me explain to you why. The Rhode Island Supreme Court in Mosby versus Devine, and I'll read you the language. Because our Firearms Act has both discretionary and mandatory licensing to qualified applicants, the constitutional guarantee to keep and bear arms is fulfilled. When you have 2-tier systems, shall issue and may issue, the Supreme Court analyzed that and said, because you have the 2, it's constitutional. When you put this into just one licensing agency, isn't it immediately unconstitutional? Because the Supreme Court in Rhode Island has said it's constitutional because we have the both halves. So, and I've said this before, you're going against Rhode Island Supreme Court case law with regard to concealed carry weapons permits. I mean, this is absolutely terrible to try to centralize it into one. And as far as the Attorney General's office, all I can tell you again, I'm just getting call after call after call of people that they're stunned that they're getting denied by the Attorney General's office for a weapons permit they've had for years, even decades.
Senator
I hope that answers your question.
Senator De La Cruz has a question for you.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, Mr. Sikosha, is you have stated there are several individuals, some of them 30, 40 plus years being concealed carry holders, that all of a sudden find themselves being denied a permit by the AG. What is their recourse? Do they have an appeals process? Can you tell me about that?
Yes. I'm one of the few attorneys in Rhode Island, because I feel so bad that these people have no recourse, that I do the writs of certiorari to the Supreme Court at a greatly reduced rate. And I can tell you right now that, and you can actually take a look at one of the filings that I filed in the Rhode Island Supreme Court. I asked the AG, the actual chief of the AG, when we were sitting there on an appeal on a denial, I said, this person's had a license from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts since 1988 continuously up till now, and has had a weapons permit from the AG's office for like the last 20 years. And you're denying this person. What is the standard that you are now saying has changed? The answer from the Attorney General's office was crystal clear. It's already there. The standard, we can't give it to you because, it varies. We take a look at the what we consider to be a suitable person and not what the standards are. So I asked them point blank, how does somebody meet the standards if you're not telling me what the standards are according to your department? They literally said to me, have the person try harder next time. And they denied the permit. That's in the filings in front of the Rhode Island Supreme Court that I had to file. I mean, what do we come down to? Do we have like a voodoo princess with throwing some chicken bones on the table saying, okay, suitable person or not suitable person?
Senator
because there is no standard.
You have a second question?
Yes, my second question is, it relates to the school concealed carry on school grounds. Now, there was a recent shooting, I think it was Parkland, where there was a police officer there on school grounds, but he ran from the scene instead of engaging the assailant. And there was video of him peeking around the corner, and meanwhile, the perpetrator is in the building, possibly killing people, killing students. So I hear a lot about how we should only have police officers in schools with firearms, but we see this individual, this police officer, flee the scene. Are you at all familiar with I believe it's a 2005 Supreme Court case surrounding two police officers that were on a subway in New York City and did not engage an attacker who was stabbing another man to death? And so that man then sued the police department, but the Supreme Court said that the police officers do not have a constitutional duty to protect or intervene on someone's behalf. Are you familiar with that case?
I am familiar with that case, and you actually got the holding on that absolutely right at spot on. The police department actually do not have to help you if they choose not to. On that, they did not have a constitutional duty to actually protect you. And I want to back up to something. You touched on something which was really important with regard to the Parkland shooting, and you hear this thing that I think Senator Golden brought up about the limiting the capacity of the magazines, and that would save this. Realize if you go back and take a look at the Parkland shooting, that individual only had 10-round magazines, and he switched out 15 times without a problem. Okay, so unfortunately, if they're saying, well, if they had a lower capacity when they switched out the magazines, then police would have an opportunity to go do this and do that. You could switch out a magazine very quickly, whether it's a 10-round, 15-round, or 30-round magazine. So it really didn't make a difference on that. So that bill doesn't really have the effect you think it's going to have.
I'll entertain
I hope I answered your question.
One last question, and I hope that you will avail yourself for additional questions from committee members, should they have any. Senator Reptakis, you may finish with this last question.
Thank you. If possible, we've heard a lot of testimony this evening, and I remember that famous police detective show back in the 60s, Dragnet, where I believe it was Joe Friday, he came out with the quote, "Just the facts, ma'am." Could we possibly have the facts, if you could provide to this committee, of how many murders or shootings that took place in Rhode Island, whether it's Providence, that these guns were stolen, number one, and were not by a law-abiding citizen? That's very important. And basically, a lot of these questions that we have this evening regarding school safety, have we had an incident where someone was arrested entering a school illegally with a gun, number one? It's just, I'm trying to concentrate on how do we compare Rhode Island with the facts with other states, because we keep hearing Colorado, we keep hearing Florida, and Rhode Island has an A- rating. We know that. But I just want to try to get as many facts from you, if you can provide them to the committee, regarding the ratio of Rhode Island, a law-abiding citizen that it has a registered gun, versus somebody that commits these crimes in this state, like the 18 murders we had in Providence last year, that had unregistered, stolen guns. And on top of it, which really bothers me a lot, is We want gun control, but we don't have crime control. A lot of our laws, it's like a revolving door with some of these criminals that usually violate the law.
Mr. Sikosha, if you could, if you have access to any of that data that you could provide our committee, we would appreciate it.
Okay, I
And
actually
thank-
have two answers to Senator Raptakis' questions, if you allow me to answer that, please.
Quickly, we must move on to our next presenter.
Okay, Senator Raptakis, I've heard you ask this question, so has other people on the panel. Senators have asked this. The problem lying with why we don't have accurate information in Rhode Island with regard to the gun crimes lies specifically in the gun reporting bill that has been presented before the Senate. I have taken a look at the gun crimes, the gun reports, and the other reports that have come out from the Attorney General's office, and it's useless information. There's a bill that's been presented that will give everybody here on this committee clear, concise information with regard to what the Attorney General's office charges for crimes, what happens with gun crimes, whether they're stolen, whether they're not stolen. The reason why we have so many problems, everybody keeps asking for these questions, is because the reporting bill doesn't pass. They present a useless report every year. If you want accurate numbers in Rhode Island, pass that bill. It will require the Attorney General to give you, the senators, and any person who wants to look at it, straightforward information with regard to these bills. Now, I got to tell you a personal story. This is in response to Senator Raptakis. There was actually an incident a couple of years ago in a church in Rhode Island. I know because I was there. After the Mass, a person pulled a knife, went up after the priest, and that person was stopped by somebody with a firearm. It was never reported to the police, but that happened. I know because that was me. There was an individual that went after the priest, and we found out there was a concealed carry holder in church. No one was injured, and the person ran out of the church and took off. So when you hear people saying concealed carry weapon holders, CCW holders shouldn't be around, I'm living proof that it happens, and it happens that quickly, and people like myself who are trained can stop an assault, possibly a murder.
Thank you, Mr.
These are
Sikosha.
things that you have to be aware of.
And if you could gather some of that data that was requested by the committee, we would appreciate it. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next advocate presenting is Mr. Michael O'Neill, also from the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition. Welcome to the committee, Mr. O'Neill. You have 5 minutes to present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Vice President of the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition, the NRA State Association. On School Bill 073, the Senate President mentioned that there was only 4 states that allow carry concealed permit holders in the country, and that is actually not correct. A lot of states are going to where they're training teachers and allowing them to carry on school grounds. Texas has trained 162 school districts. Missouri and also Ohio has trained school districts as far as carrying concealed. I've heard a lot of information about let's, make our schools safer. We have to push this bill. Let's make these gun laws with the assault weapons ban, the magazine ban, to make our state safer. The number one problem is that none of it is going to be safe. There is no direction on how do you stop mass shootings from going on to the schools. You put bulletproof glass, metal detectors, one entry point. You put camera systems in. You put more law enforcement officers in the schools. That's what we do at the airport. That's what we've done all over the country on our airports. That's what we need to do for our schools. Changing the carry concealed permit holders off school grounds makes it a gun-free zone, which most 95% of all shootings happen in a gun-free zone. So I don't understand why since 2013, I have made this statement every single year that we need to secure our schools, and there's nothing being done except coming after the law-abiding citizen. All the bills that the Attorney General is putting in at this point goes after law-abiding citizen. He's not turning over the information as far as how he's handling gun charges. I assume that he's dropping the charges and the person is pleading out. It was mentioned before on, let's say, Senate Bill 419 about an electric arm. Electric arm that bill is written incorrectly for a couple of reasons. One, you can't consider a taser or a stun gun as a firearm. The ATF does not recognize that as a firearm. So you can't have the gun stores filling out a federal form to get a background check on a taser or a stun gun through the ATF for the background checks. It's not allowed. They don't recognize it. The lawsuit we've been trying to pass for the last 3-4 years on making stun guns and tasers legal in the state of Rhode Island. Because we're, like Senator De La Cruz said, there's only Hawaii, which is wrapping up, and Rhode Island is the last state. And I know this because it's Mike O'Neill, Nick Grasso versus the Attorney General, Peter Nerona. That is my lawsuit, and Frank Sikosha is my attorney, and that's because we could not get the bill passed and we had to file suit because of all the objections from the state and from the Police Chiefs Association. So it's amazing on the amount of misinformation and how these bills are written incorrectly. I would like to see the data on the magazines. I would also like to see the Commissioner Perry when he said that there was studies done that prove that the assault weapons ban from 94 to 2004 actually prevented 60 mass shootings. That's incorrect. There's nothing in any type of study that I can find that substantiates his statement. I know that the Crime Prevention Center, Dr. John Lott, who's a leading expert in the state of Rhode Island, in the country, actually, I apologize, that there was 2 studies done that proved that the assault weapons ban had no bearing and no prevention whatsoever of any mass shootings or change in the statistics. Also from the Attorney General's office today was a statement that Massachusetts is safer than Rhode Island because they do things better with their assault weapons ban and they save more lives. Well, I can show you right now that in 2019, the FBI crimes report that murders for firearms, total murders were 146 in Massachusetts, 86 were firearms, 33 were handguns, and the rest were knives, fists, and other weapons. Rhode Island had 25 murders, 10 were done with firearms, and that's why murders per capita, we are number 1, number 2, safest state in the country per capita. So, you know, we are really one of the safest states. On an average, we have maybe 10 to 11 murders, and I can go back to 2017, 18, and 19. The numbers for 2020 are not available by the FBI yet. So, you know, there's a lot of different things that I've heard that come into play that simply just are not true.
Thank you very much. That's 5 minutes for your testimony, and I believe Senator Archambault has a question.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mike, do you have any information on the statistics of CCW carriers in Rhode Island and how many actually have committed crimes? We'll go back maybe the past decade. Any information that you have? I know that's always a question every year when these bills come up, and what do you have on that?
So as far as the state of Rhode Island is concerned, we have 4,000, I believe, permit carry holders in Rhode Island itself. I have not found one case where a carry concealed permit holder had, committed a murder or a bad shooting. I can't find any stat for Rhode Island on that at all. I can tell you that on the carry concealed side of it, the CDC will show you that 2.5 million times a year, a carry concealed permit holder will stop a mass shooting or stop a crime or protect his family or protect strangers. I can tell you that those type of stats. We have around 14.5 million carry concealed permit holders in the country, and it's a minute number as far as bad shootings compared to police officers who actually have more bad shootings than we do, but they also have more engagement with criminals than the carry concealed permit holder.
Senator De La Cruz.
You broke out, your audio broke out a little bit, but I wanted to just restate that according to the CDC and the FBI data that I've seen, this is not NRA data. This is data from the CDC and the FBI, that concealed carry holders nationally have the lowest rates of incidence of crime compared to any other individuals in the United States, including police officers. So they have the lowest incidence of crime because they have the most to lose. But Mr. O'Neill, what are your thoughts on mass shootings and preventing them?
So on mass shootings and preventing them, I can give you two examples. Like if you get into like Parkland, he was addressed by the sheriff's department more than 40 times. Also, the FBI was called twice, and it was because of the Obama era where he said that he didn't want to charge minors with misdemeanors. His caretaker pleaded with him that he bought a firearm to the FBI. He wants to commit a mass shooting, and it was really a law enforcement drop. On the other side, you have Club Pulse that is in Florida also, and it was a gun-free zone, and a large amount of people were killed that day. There was a police officer, a sheriff outside of the building when the incident started happening, called for backup, and it took 45 minutes for them to go into the building. And what happened was that all you heard was shots for the next 45 minutes as he was going in on a killing spree. That person was interviewed by the FBI twice because of his father's background as far as having terrorist ties. So all these could be prevented by stopping a person that, one, has been in front of the police department 45 different times, should have been in the NICS systems like we do in Rhode Island, and also the guy for the Pulse shooting, where it is interviewed by the FBI twice, he should have been prevented from buying a firearm. And the other thing is more security in schools. We need better security. That if you want to stop somebody, better security, just like with your home. You get broken into, you put an alarm. You feel threatened, you buy a firearm. These are in camera systems. Everybody has camera systems on their house. We need camera systems on our school. So
Senator Rogers,
that's my...
did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Mike, have you had a chance to read the Rhode Island Coalitions Against Violence Gun Safety Reform, and what are your thoughts on that?
So I've read through it, and what's amazing is their numbers on their polls. So, you know, they come up with all these numbers of, 80% of Rhode Islanders want, these bills to pass. But none of their polls will tell you, okay, out of 100,000 people, these are the numbers we came up with. Out of 60 people, this is the numbers that we come up with. None of those numbers factor in on their polls. They just throw percentages out there. So you can call David Cicilline and ask him every time that he put up a poll on Facebook about the magazine ban, the assault weapons ban, that it would come after 5 hours. He would take it down. We would screenshot it. And what would happen is he would have 95% of the 20,000 that answered the question to be against the assault weapons ban, against the magazine ban, and we would take a screenshot because he would take it down because he knew that it wasn't going in the way that the direction that he wanted to. I mean, the Coalition Against Gun Violence, they've never asked for enhanced penalties on basically guys that are committing crimes that shouldn't own a firearm. The Attorney General is not asking for enhanced penalties. As you can see, all the bills that between the support of the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence in their pamphlet is that they want to go after the law-abiding citizen. To me, it's gun confiscation. That's the issue.
I'll entertain one last question before we conclude with the advocate portion of the agenda. One last question, Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. And that segues into my next question. Now that you talked about that. What are the numbers of firearm murders in Rhode Island, and where do we compare to other states?
So, as I mentioned earlier, so in 2019, we had 25 murders. We had 10 that were firearms, and the rest were like knives, instruments, other weapons, and then 2 were fists and feet, So, with the rest of the country, we're like number 1 and number 2 per capita as far as firearm deaths. Rhode Island is pretty safe,
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. And thank you for joining us this evening and for your presentation. And I appreciate all the committee members' questions and engagement with our advocates. The next portion of the agenda involves our general officers, who will have 2 minutes to make comments related to the bills that are stamped on our committee hearing agenda today. So I believe the first phone call is from our Secretary of State, Nellie Gorbea. Welcome to the committee, Secretary of State. Thank you for your patience. And you have two...
no, thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Coyne. Thank you so much.
You have 2 minutes.
I know that you have, I know that you have a long night ahead, so I'll keep my remarks brief. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present testimony in support of Senate Bills 73, 406, 414, and 415. I would especially like to thank Attorney General Peter Nerona for submitting these important pieces of legislation aiming to strengthen our state's gun laws. And I would really like to thank the Senate for leading on such a critical issue. This is the first time that I have put my official Secretary of State stamp on bills that were not submitted on behalf of my office. And I did this, as I imagine my colleagues did as well, because I believe in this cause and in the vital change that is needed to enact common sense gun laws. For me, the day it became my own cause was the day of the Sandy Hook massacre, as I struggled with how to compose myself before I picked up my own young children at school that day. The truth is that gun violence is an epidemic in this country, and it absolutely needs to be addressed, as is being done in the legislation I'm supporting, and in the other areas, that also address mental health issues. I believe in the right of Americans to bear arms under the Second Amendment. However, I can tell you that not everyone should have access to these kinds of weapons, the military-grade type weapons, with any amount of ammunition. With these bills, you can take meaningful action to enhance public safety. In fact, Rhode Island has taken a leadership role in advancing common sense and strong gun safety legislation. And I want to thank the advocates, the Rhode Island Coalition Against Gun Violence, and also Moms Demand Action, for helping lead a lot of those efforts. Over the past several years, this legislature has passed a red flag law, banned the sale of bump stocks, and enacted a law prohibiting certain domestic abusers. I believe these laws do serve the public good while preserving Rhode Islanders' Second Amendment rights. I strongly encourage the committee to pass the legislation, and I thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of this package of legislation.
Well, thank you so much for your patience this evening. We have a very long agenda tonight, and thank you for comments on your bill. And right now, I would like to move to Treasurer Seth Magaziner, who has joined us.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and welcome to the
All
committee.
right.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience as well. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to all of the members of the committee. I'm here tonight to testify in favor of Bills 73, 414, 415. I want to thank Senate President Ruggiero, Senator Golden, and Senator Miller for introducing these bills. I'm here today as the treasurer, but also as a former public school teacher. I know the dread that parents and teachers feel every time that news comes on the television that there is another mass shooting. And that feeling in the pit of the stomach where you just hope that today is not the day that that violence comes to our community, to my kids' school. Guns have no place in schools. And the evidence is clear that mass shootings are deadlier when high-capacity magazines and assault weapons are involved. For this reason, I announced last year that the state of Rhode Island will no longer invest public funds in companies that manufacture assault weapons for civilian use. Now you have the opportunity to minimize the chance that these combat-style weapons will ever be turned on school children in Rhode Island. It is long past time for Rhode Island to join our regional neighbors in adopting this common-sense gun safety legislation. As treasurer, I oversee the state's Crime Victims Compensation Fund, which assists victims of gun violence and their families in paying for medical bills, lost earnings, and in the most heartbreaking cases, funeral expenses. My team and I have seen firsthand how unchecked gun violence can destroy lives and shatter families. And in 2020 alone, the number of deaths due to gun violence in Rhode Island nearly doubled. I've testified every year since I took office in favor of these bills, and I hope that this year will be the last year, because I hope that this is the year that we'll get them over the finish line. So thank you to the members of the Senate for your consideration. Thank you to everyone testifying tonight. Thank you to the advocates who come back year after year, and for all of the teachers, the parents, and the students who are counting on us to keep them safe. Let's make 2021 the year that we join our neighboring states in passing these bills into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Magaziner, for joining us this evening. Excuse me? Senator Dela Cruz?
Thank you, Chairwoman. So, thank you for being a teacher, Mr. Magaziner. It's a very noble profession, and you did mold the minds of young people, and I commend you for that. My husband was a teacher, and he would disagree with you on regards to carrying on school grounds. So I don't know that making blanket statements for all teachers is fair. One of the individuals that I worked with is the principal at the school, was a former state trooper, and he carried on school grounds. So I think, speaking personal experience is fair, but to speak for all teachers, I would have to disagree. And I would also have to disagree with you that the evidence is clear. But thank you for testifying before the committee today. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Senator Dela Cruz. And Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. I want to be clear. Thanks for your testimony, Mr. Magaziner, but when we throw hot topic words out, I heard you mention combat weapons in school. Well, I want to make it clear, the weapons we're talking about, I would never expect to give those weapons to our military to defend this country. There's a clear distinction between a combat weapon and what we're trying to ban as an assault weapons. They are completely different. And when we throw words in combat weapons, killing kids in our school grounds, it's misleading. It is a completely different weapon. If now you want to start sending these weapons to our military, we'd be the laughingstock of the world. I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. And you may finish up, Treasurer Magaziner, with the last comment.
No, I'll just thank you all. I just say, listen, I know that this is a topic where reasonable people can disagree, but I would push back a bit. I know that when it comes to allowing guns on school grounds, Rhode Island is an outlier, that our laws are more permissive than the vast majority of states around the country. I actually taught school for a while in Louisiana. The motto of Louisiana is the sportsman's paradise. It's a state with more than 60% gun ownership, several times higher than Rhode Island's. Guns were not allowed on school grounds in Louisiana, so we are an outlier. I don't claim to speak on behalf of all teachers, but I do know that I speak on behalf of a majority of Rhode Islanders when I support these three pieces of legislation, which have overwhelming support. And all I would say is that I do believe that it is time for Rhode Island to join at least our regional neighbors, and in the case of the Harold Metz bill on guns on school grounds, the vast majority of other states in enacting these pieces of legislation. But I do respect the fact that that it's a passionate subject, and I thank everyone for expressing their points of view tonight, and I thank you for the opportunity to express mine.
And thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate the time that you took to comment and join us. Thank you. Now, at this time, we will begin public testimony. At the beginning of the call, please state your name and town you are from. And as a reminder, you will be allowed 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify on all the bills that were introduced this evening. You will hear an alarm go off at the 1 minute mark to alert you that 15 seconds remain. At 1 minute and 15 seconds, we will thank you for your testimony and move on to the next witness. Okay. And with that, we will begin making our first calls. I believe we have the first caller on the phone. Could you please state your name, town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Jacob. I'm from West Greenwich, Rhode Island. I am a lobbyist for Rhode Island Revolver and Rifle Association. My opposition for the bills before you are based on credible Rhode Island data. Not one of the anti-gun bills presented will effectively legislate away criminal behavior, but instead will hinder our community's efforts to be safe, responsible, law-abiding citizens. The lucrative business of the anti-gun advocacy is hindering the real crisis by diverting your attention to feel-good legislation. We are taking action to prevent these tragedies. We are providing safety training and junior programs because we recognize the key to preventing violence is by investing in our youth, preventing kids from becoming future criminals. These kids are developing good conservation and environmental habits, sportsmanship, responsibility, and life skills. These bills will directly impact our youth program. Another factor overlooked is economics. An economic impact study was done in 2020 finds that firearms industry brings approximately $134 million to Rhode Island each year. This revenue is generated by the 130 small businesses with over 600 employees. This money benefits all Rhode Islanders who walk through public lands, through public land acquisitions, conservation, and environmental projects encompassing 25 wildlife refuges and 60,000 acres.
Brenda, thank you very much for your testimony. Your time has expired. I believe Senator Rogers has a question.
Actually, Chair, I've got two, if you would indulge me. The first one is, what do you mean by anti-gun lucrative business, Brenda?
I'm sorry. She got disconnected by accident. We'll bring her back for you. Just stand by 1 second, please. And if the committee members would at least raise their hands, please raise your hands if you do have a question of the witness, please. I'm sorry, Brenda, you were cut off by accident. I believe Senator Rogers has a question for you.
Okay.
You're muted, Senator Rogers.
Hi, Brenda. I've got two quick questions. What do you mean by anti-gun lucrative business?
Well, we have found that over $1.3 million has come into the state from different types of outside entities, such as Everytown, Bloomberg, Giffords Planned Parenthood, and other elite millionaires. They are funneling money into our state. The other thing to note is that Everytown's tax returns are public record, and you'll see that they have huge salaries. In fact, on Indeed, your base pay for working for Everytown is $94,000. And what happens is this money is coming in through other reports, and it is not being disclosed for, it's actually kind of shady the way it's happening because this is coming into advocacy groups that have signed up as nonprofits, so they don't have to disclose all of the money that's coming in. But we have been able to trace it, and it is a lot of money coming in from out-of-state resources.
Do you have another question, Senator Rogers?
Yeah, I know Brenda does a lot of programs. What type of programs do you offer for the kids and stuff?
Well, I'm excited to say that we have a very big junior program in this state, and we have kids that are actually going to be representing our state out at the Junior Olympic tryouts to try out for the Olympic team. So we do have programs that are small bore rifle, high power rifle, pistol, shotgun, basic safety classes, and hunter safety classes. And some of their rifles are actually going to be banned under the assault weapons ban because if you've never seen one of the competition rifles or pistols, they're fully adjustable so that we can fit the rifles to the kids. Their rifles are essentially going to be banned under the assault weapons ban because of the adjustability of these firearms. So we are really at risk of losing these programs. And a lot of these kids depend on these programs in order to get full scholarships. And they are also vetted by coaches at West Point, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, MIT. We have kids that are out on full scholarship out in Akron and Ole Miss. So it's really worrisome that we might be on the brink of losing these programs for these kids because of the wording in a lot of these bills.
Senator De La Cruz, you have a question?
Thank you, Brenda. It's alarming to me that that so much money is coming into Rhode Island to influence politicians. Have you decided what you're going to do with that information? Are you going to share that with, I don't know, the Attorney General or, what is it, the not Board of Elections, but maybe the Board of Elections? Have you thought about what you're going to do with that information?
We're going to hand it over to campaign finance because we feel like the way that this is being reported is very deceitful, and it's not giving the public a fair assessment of where the money is come that's driving these bills. It's not coming from Rhode Island, and we keep getting, the gun community keeps getting a bad rap saying the NRA is funding everything. Well, as you can see, the NRA has been pretty much MIA on us, and we are all 100% volunteers. We represent ourselves as ourselves. Our phone numbers and emails don't go to lobbying firms out of the state where we're 100% dedicated Rhode Islanders, and we don't feel like it's a level playing field at this point when we're up against all these millions of dollars. And I also want to add that all these millions of dollars could be going towards youth programs like we're doing. We're blue-collar workers, and we're investing in our community, and instead they're investing in politicians. And I just don't think that it's a level playing field for us.
Thank you very much. We will now go on to the next witness. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Sure. My name is Glenn Valentine. I'm with the Rhode Island Firearms League. I'm an East Greenwich resident. So I think Senator Rogers covered most of what I was going to cover in this bill. So mostly it's Senate Bill 073, no guns on school grounds. In the past, past iterations, the debate was solely on the liability versus asset regarding someone concealing a firearm on school grounds. I think, that's a debate that will never be settled and there'll never be consensus on. However, this bill this current iteration creates this inevitability now where folks will be unholstering firearms, unloading firearms, storing, reloading, and reholstering firearms, all within the confines of either right outside of a school zone or in a school zone. None of these activities are allowed on gun ranges across the state unless you're on a firing line. Virtually no gun ranges allow people to holster and unholster firearms anywhere on a range. I also sent a request to the state police regarding what their policies were in terms of how they store firearms, where they clear those. And none of these things even fall in line with what the state police require. They have designated zones where they have to clear their firearms, which are more than likely a clearing station with a barrel. They encourage officers to leave their guns holstered when they're going to be left for a short period of time. So we're creating all these situations, replacing this hypothetical good guy with a gun being a liability and replacing it with an inevitability that folks will be handling firearms in ways that we don't allow anywhere, whether it's in a police department.
Thank you for your testimony. Sure. We have hit the 1:15 mark. May I have the next witness to testify? Good evening and welcome to the Committee on Judiciary. Would you please state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds. Could you please state your
Hello?
name for the record, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify.
Good evening. My name is Carrie DeSanto, and I live in Barrington, which is Senator Coyne's district. I am calling to urge the committee to support the Attorney General's gun safety bills 415, 414, 73, 416, 406, 416, and 129. To the pro-gun senators who keep saying we should only look at Rhode Island, that's a great point, because in 2020, according to the FBI, Rhode Island was second only to Michigan in the massive surge in firearm background checks. Correspondingly, we have had an 87% increase in non-suicide gun deaths and a 25% increase in non-fatal gun injuries statewide. The background check surge continues in Rhode Island. According to the FBI, in the first quarter of this year, it's 23.3% higher than the first quarter of last year. So yes, let's look at Rhode Island's stats and make the intelligent decision to enact the Attorney General's vetted, evidence-backed gun safety reform bills. Please move these bills to the floor for debate and up or down votes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it. We will next move to the next witness, please. Welcome to the committee. If you would please state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Amy DeGregory, Coventry. I oppose 406. This is dictating my level of safety in my own home. If a person breaks into my house and steals my guns, this bill no longer focuses on the actual criminal, but instead makes me one. I oppose 414. I keep hearing no one needs more than 10 rounds. You might want to ask the police why they have at least 15 rounds in their pistols and 20 to 30 rounds in their ARs. If that's what they need to protect themselves, that's what I need. I oppose 415. Almost all magazines have a removable bottom plate. If you didn't know that, then you need to do more research before voting on these bills. If you do know this, then you're just trying to take all of our guns. I oppose 129. Last year, you made gun sale background checks go through the local authorities because you said that they would know their city or townspeople better than anyone. So this is just contradicting your own thought process.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. I do have a question from Senator Rogers for you.
Thank you, Chair. Two quick questions. How will these bills, you're normal, how would these bills affect you personally?
Did you hear that, Mr.? Yes, did you hear his question?
I did, yes.
Okay, you may proceed.
So, I'm a certified NRA range safety officer. I belong to 2 gun clubs. I compete in rifle, pistol, and shotgun competitions. If Bill 414 goes through, most of my guns will be illegal, as their standard magazine capacity is over 10 rounds. If 415 goes through, all of my guns will be illegal, as all of my magazines have a removable bottom plate. If 129 goes through, it gives one of the most anti-gun people in the state, the Attorney General, the sole authority to approve or deny my right to protect myself, along with prohibiting any recourse if denied by him for any meaningless reason.
Senator Rogers, did you have another question?
Just a follow-up. So are you in favor of any of these bills?
Actually, I am. I'm in favor of Bill 119. We've asked every year for this report, but never get it. I find it odd that the gun owners are more interested in this than the legislators that are writing the anti-gun bills. Not sure where the logic is coming from if you don't have any statistics. Bill 507, 20 states have permitless carry. Statistically, these states have less gun crimes than the rest of the U.S. If we're going to base bills and laws on facts, well, there you go. Bills 508 and 517, 43 states, as Senator Rogers stated before, 43 states allow suppressors. This would help with noise control in and around gun ranges, not to mention asymmetric hearing loss, which is a health risk to shooters, better known as shootings here.
Thank
Bill
you.
508.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Sorry, 509. If already been vetted in another state to carry, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to carry in Rhode Island. And one last thing, our community is not stupid. We are very aware of why these bills are popular with the progressives. So I'd like to address the moderate Democrat legislators and ask this question. Don't you find it odd that the same people pushing for these bills, whether legislators or people from the anti-gun groups, are extremely friendly with Mr. Jason Knight, the same guy that sponsors and co-sponsors anti-gun bills, yet also gets the worst high-profile gun crimes in Rhode Island dismissed with no consequences? The penalty for selling firearms illegally in Rhode Island is a minimum of 1 year to a maximum of 10 years, but Mr. Knight's client didn't receive any jail time. So I'll leave you with this. How can they be so friendly with someone that is so contradicting to their cause?
Thank you very much. And we'll move to our next witness on the agenda. Welcome to the committee. If you would please state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah, my name is David Eichlin from Newport, and I'm the president of the Rhode Island Farm Owners League, and I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 522. We've done a lot of work and research regarding CCW permits under 114711, and this is how I first got involved back in 2010, when there were only a few towns that even had applications, but today every town has an application, and most have actually issued permit as well. This bill here, I'm supporting this because we standardize the application and the process to process the applications, which is needed since there is a pretty big discrepancy on what different applications ask for and how they are processed. You know, some even want to decide medical and financial releases, which they should not have anyone have to do. Very private information, in my opinion. And when I first tried to get a permit in 2010, I first had to sue the chiefs just to get an application because they didn't want to give it to me. He then denied me because I didn't have a proper showing of need, which is not a requirement under law. So the chief even processed it under the wrong standard. I did what the Supreme Court has said in the Mosby decision, which is petition the Supreme review my case. However,
thank you, Mr. Eichlin. Your 1 minute and 15 seconds is expired. Senator De La Cruz.
Mr. Eichlin, you were talking about that there are different standards for each municipality, it sounds like. You said that one of them was requiring mental health and financial information. Can you tell me how they vary from municipality to municipality?
Yeah, there is not a whole lot of information in the statute itself that clarifies the process. There are 4 basic requirements, and they have to be 21 years old and be a resident or have a business in the town, and you have to have a good reason to fear injury or have a proper reason for carrying a pistol or revolver. And you must be a suitable person, and then you must pass the shooting proficiency test. But unfortunately, a lot of these licensing authorities are adding their own requirements beyond what is required by statutes, and there's not really any other way of appealing that if they don't follow the law. And in my case, like I didn't get a chance to finish, but I petitioned the Supreme Court, and they declined to take my case, so I had no other way of appealing my process. So I hope that answers my question.
Senator De La Cruz, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just a follow-up to that. So, Mr. Eichlin, what is your recourse then if a police department asks you for personal information like your medical records or your financial records? Can you go through a lower court and appeal that decision, or do you have to spend thousands of dollars and go to the Rhode Island Supreme Court and appeal?
You have to go to the Rhode Island Supreme Court, which you are right, can cost thousands of dollars, and in some cases, I know it's cost tens of thousands of dollars, and there's not even a guarantee, like in my case, that they will even take your case, because they have full discretion on that. They decided for themselves. I was never given any explanation why they didn't take my case, so that was obviously very, very disappointing. I spent a lot of money on it, and it turned out it was all just for wasting money.
Thank you. I believe there are no other questions. Thank you very much. Our next witness, please. Welcome to the Judiciary Committee. If you would kindly state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Hi, this is Jen Hurst from Cranston, and I'm basically supporting of all the reporting bills so that we can have the data that's needed to make good public policy. All the concealed carry reciprocity and constitutional carry, but I am opposed to basically the School Act because there's some safety issues there presented in the way it's worded, as well as there are some concerns I have with the other bills as well, especially, I'm opposed to the bans on the magazine size and assault weapons bans. I'm not going to belabor the same things that everyone else has already said, but, just when you have a diminished diminished value, if you have to start modifying a curio and relic just to comply. So I would call that takings under the Constitution, under the Fourth Amendment. I would have concerns about the supply and availability, especially with the pandemic, as far as getting parts to even comply with the magazine capacity size. And as far as other things that we should know.
Thank you. Your time is up. Yes, Senator Rogers, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. Do you think I've had anything regarding Senate Bill 71 that people may have not considered being beyond the obvious concern? And then I have one more after that.
Oh, sure. With all of these bills, there's a lot of wording issues. So particularly, with the school bill, for instance, you've got the example that Frank Sikosha gave where the person's a domestic violence victim. Well, it presumes you have a car, too. So if you have a vehicle, you would have, obviously, if you don't have a vehicle, you're in the city, you walk to school, the person has a bicycle, ride shares, that person, isn't eligible to get the same ability to, lock and unload and lock. As far as the container, the lot bill, there's same sort of thing. You've got the person that maybe is a domestic violence victim. They don't have all this money to go buy a safe or other things. So I think we have to be careful about making sure, that we don't treat certain people kind of as, as endless money flows, and that we treat, everybody basically equal, as far as a lot of these bills.
Senator Rogers, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, one other question regarding Bill 416. I was just curious what she thought, what the word transfer meant to her in that bill, because to me it kind of confused me a little bit, and I wanted to ask her about that.
That's really tricky, that one, because if you fill out the FFL form, they talk about transferee, transferor. So then you talk about in the economics transaction, you could say, hey, I'm buying something, I transfer money or exchange money, or when you get a good or service actually performed. So there's the contractual sense of it. So I really couldn't tell from reading that bill what the transfer was specific just to the FFL form, or, they use the other couple words in there too, like, otherwise obtained. Well, obtained does mean get possession, because people could buy a firearm on installment. They could pay for it. Maybe it's not in stock and the dealer has to order it. So you're prepaying, but you're not getting the firearm or necessarily filling out the 4473 until the dealer has it, So I don't really know from reading that what they were even getting at, because they it's just unclear.
Thank you for your testimony. We will now move on to the next witness. If you would kindly, welcome to the committee. If you would state your name, the town you are from, you have 1 minute and 15 seconds. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Calandra. I'm from North Providence. I'm a young woman, and I'm a small business owner in the firearms industry, and I am appalled by some of these bills introduced. Do you know what is actually defined as an assault weapon according to S415? It is based on features and accessories. Because my rifle has an adjustable stock, which makes it safer for me to shoot as a 5'2" woman, it is defined as an assault weapon. But if I have the exact same gun with wooden furniture without an adjustable stock, it's not classified as an assault weapon. The terminology used in these bills is misleading. For anyone reading these bills that is unfamiliar with guns, of course it sounds scary. We even had someone say that we should ban semi-automatic machine guns a couple weeks ago in the House, insinuating that this type of gun, which doesn't even exist, is actually available for legal purchase. Everyone on both sides is committed to reducing gun violence. The question is, how do we do it? We need to look at the problem, not try to pass legislation that will do nothing to take the guns out of the hands of criminals and will only affect law-abiding citizens. Today and throughout the legislative session, you will be making decisions that directly impact your constituents, and I ask you to please at least be familiar with what you are trying to ban before fighting to ban it.
Thank you for your testimony. Yes, Senator Rogers has a question for you.
Thank you. Two very quick and simple questions. Tanya, what is the economic impact of these bills is the first one.
So the economic impact of these bills is huge, right? So guns, ammo, magazines, gun accessories, these are all things that are going to be purchased. But these bills are going to push people to make these purchases online versus in person, supporting a local Rhode Island-owned business. You have to look at this last year. We've lost so many small businesses due to the government restrictions from COVID. We have successful businesses here in the firearms industry in Rhode Island that are tax-paying businesses owned by tax-paying residents. Local businesses care about our community, promote gun safety, hold firearms trainings for all levels of shooters, and many even offer free trainings covering firearms basics for new gun owners. Companies in Rhode Island in the firearms industry employ over 600 people throughout the state. They're good-paying jobs, and today every job is important. The firearms industry also contributes to the economy as a whole. I don't know if you're aware, but in 2020, our firearm and ammunition industry was responsible for over $170 million in total economic activity just in the state of Rhode Island. Not only does the firearms industry create jobs, it also generates sizable tax revenues for Rhode Island.
Thank you, Tanya.
Last year, the firearms industry paid over $13.5 million in taxes. Yeah.
Thank you. I believe Senator Rogers has a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, we brought up the discussion about the removable magazine floor plates. And like I stated earlier, every single gun I have has a removable floor plate. So the question is, I'm going to have to get an aftermarket magazine. Are they readily available for me to retrofit my guns with these illegal magazines that have removable floor plates?
No. In the last year, readily available and firearms industry are not found in the same sentence. You really have to look at the effects the pandemic has had on our industry. There's been supply chain disruptions and distribution issues over the last year. And I think that the firearms industry has been one of the first and what I would consider one of the hardest hit. Even if you can find available products, there's been over a 400% increase in some prices. Many factory magazines, which are the magazines from the manufacturer of the firearm, are about non-existent. There is a little bit better availability of aftermarket mags, but even the aftermarket magazines are not even readily available today. Some tried and true aftermarket magazines will work with certain types of firearms, but they are not manufactured for all firearms, only the very common platforms. There are many firearms where only factory mags are available or reliable for the firearm, and they've just been about non-existent for the past year. I'd also like to just state real quick that most firearms come with their standard capacity magazine, which is usually over 10 rounds. Most magazines on the market are 12, 14, 17, 30 rounds. It's not high capacity. This is standard capacity. So if S414 is passed, this would ban any standard capacity magazine over 10 rounds, which would effectively ban many firearms themselves, as these additional magazines are just not currently readily available.
Thank you, Tanya, for answering the senator's questions. I appreciate it. We must move on to our next witness. Yes. Welcome to the Judiciary Committee, Mayor. If you would state your name, please, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds, and thank you for joining our committee.
Well, thank you for having me. This is Jorge Alorza from Providence. Thank you to the chair and thank you to the committee. I know you're carefully considering this slate of bills. I'm here to testify in favor of common sense gun legislation. Sadly, we're all trying to make sense of yet another school shooting that's developing at this hour in Knoxville, Tennessee. And, we're here to call for these common sense gun control measures that a majority of Rhode Islanders, a majority of Americans, and a majority of people in my community support. And this is an opportunity for us to be leaders in this space, and this is an opportunity for us to save lives in the process. And so I've testified on behalf of these bills in the past. I'm also submitting written testimony, and I will allow that to stand. But it's about time that we step up to the plate and do what we can to ban these military-grade assault weapons, ban high-capacity magazines, ban concealed carry on school grounds, and strengthen the requirements for safe storage of firearms. There's so much we can do to keep our people safe, and I ask everyone to please vote in favor of these measures.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for your testimony. I do have questions from two senators. Senator De La Cruz, go ahead.
I actually have a statement here. I find it interesting that all of what we would consider anti-Second Amendment legislation is only sponsored by one party, whereas there's other legislation co-sponsored by Democrats and Republicans. Those are bipartisan. So I would dare say that common sense legislation is when two parties can come together and submit legislation. Also, the term common sense, I guess, is a relative term, depending on who you're speaking to, because these are not common sense pieces of legislation, as we've pointed out here today. And you know what? That's it. Thank you very much.
Senator.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have one more. Senator Rogers.
Can I respond to that?
Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
of course, Mayor. Yes, you may respond to Senator De La Cruz. You may.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. What I will say is that, unfortunately, a lot of our politics is so polarized and so partisan that we can't reach agreement on what a majority of our residents and a majority of our voters support and believe in. There is strong bipartisan support throughout our state and throughout the country for these common sense gun legislations. When I mention that this is something that the majority of the community supports, it's something that has been borne out by poll after poll and survey after survey. And I ask for people on both sides of the aisle to come together to pass this common sense gun legislation that an overwhelming majority of our residents in our state and our country support.
Thank you, Mayor. Senator Rogers.
May I have follow-up, please, on that?
Senator De La Cruz.
Thank you, Chairwoman, for entertaining that. When my freshman term in judiciary, I was fortunate enough to serve in judiciary. There came before us a signal, not a signal poll. Actually, yes, it was a signal poll done here in Rhode Island, and it showed that Rhode Islanders ranked gun legislation dead last on legislation that they wanted legislators to focus on. The primary concerns that Rhode Islanders had were infrastructure, schools, economy, and dead last was firearms legislation. So it's not something that I hear a lot from my community, and I knocked on every single registered voter's door in my district. Maybe I've missed a few, I gotta say, but I'll say that I came very close to knocking on all doors. And I'll tell you the amount of times I could count on one hand where individuals would ask me where I stand on the Second Amendment or abortion. Most of the time, they wanted us to fix our failing schools and work on our economy. And those two we are failing at miserably. So let's focus on something that will actually produce fruitful results. Thank you.
Senator, would you like to respond, Mayor?
I look forward to working on those as well. We can do many things at once. And when we talk about measures that are going to keep our community safer and keep kids safe, I think that that's a strong majority throughout our state to support things that we can do to address that.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe one other senator has a question. Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. And this question is, a lot, I believe, these gun bills are being driven because of the gun violence. And so I'm going to lead into saying that gun sales have increased 110% in the state in the last year. and the majority of the communities have had level or decreased gun violence, and yet Providence and select others have had a large increase. So is it a state problem, or is it a community problem, or a specific area that is a problem that we all have to pay for that? So I want to know why is it a state issue and we should be concentrating on the city of Providence and the others where this crime is really going high? Is it a policy problem, or is it a gun law problem?
Yeah. So, I'll remind folks that the majority of people killed with guns every year are not killed violently on the streets. They died through suicide. And this is not just a question of violence, and it's not a question of inner city violence or any kind of violence. This is also a question of they're just deadly. And it has dramatically increased the number of people who are taking their own lives. And if we can prevent that, then I think that's a good all around. What I will say is that when you compare the United States to other countries and why we are so violent and why we are so deadly, one thing stands out above all other developed countries throughout the world. Per capita, we have far more guns out on the streets than does anyone else. And it's no surprise that with so many, not just guns, but high-capacity rounds and assault-style weapons, that's why we have so many more of these mass shootings. And when you speak about rise of crime in inner cities, this is an issue that is not just limited to what we're seeing in our cities. In fact, a number of the mass shootings that we've seen throughout the country, they happen in smaller towns and smaller cities throughout. Now, we've been fortunate that we haven't had it here, but unfortunately, this can strike anywhere. And if there are measures that we can take to address this and hopefully prevent it and keep our people safe, I don't see why we wouldn't take that, especially on matters that have strong bipartisan support. In a Quinnipiac poll, 61% of people throughout the country have said that they favor stricter gun laws. That includes an overwhelming percentage of Democrats, a strong percentage of independents, and a strong percentage of Republicans as well. This is as bipartisan as it gets nowadays in political terms. I mean bipartisan, not in terms of elected officials, but bipartisan in terms of our community. And that's what should really matter.
Thank you very much for your testimony this evening, Mayor. Our next witness, thank you for joining us. Our next witness. Good evening. Welcome to the committee. If you would kindly state your name, the town you are from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds. You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Hirons from Warwick, Rhode Island. I'm testifying against Senate Bills 0073, 129, 406, 414, 415, 416, 417, and 737 and 742. These bills do nothing to make Rhode Island safe. They only impose restrictions on legal firearms owners, and they will be ignored by the criminals who already break the firearm laws we already have. Specifically, Senate Bill 0073, the School Safety Act, would remove an existing exemption in the law that allows CCW holders to carry on school grounds. This exemption was added to the law in 1990 specifically at the request of the Attorney General at that time. CCW holders represent less than 1% of the Rhode Island population, and given their CCW permits, are some of the most vetted people in the state, undergoing multiple background checks to get their permits. And according to FBI crime statistics, CCW holders commit crime rate than police officers do. Yet police officers are exempt and CCW holders should not be. Just make it okay. Please impose these laws not to address the problems we're experiencing here in Rhode Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I believe Senator Rogers has a question.
Thanks. John, can you tell me how the junior shooting sports can prevent crime? I know you mentored some of them also.
Oh, absolutely. I run one of the largest junior rifle programs in the state of Rhode Island, the Smithfield Sportsman's Club, and I can tell you that the kids that are involved in our program don't have problems. They're on a Friday night, they're hanging out with adults being supervised instead of being out causing trouble. Our kids actually have better grades in school statistically based on what they do because of the concentration required in the sports and their involvement in the community. So it's a great all-around bonus for the kids and the community.
Thank you. Senator De La Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Hirons. Will the magazine capacity ban affect you personally?
Absolutely. If that bill is passed as is written with the removal of floor-plate option, it would make every semi-automatic handgun I currently own illegal in the state of Rhode Island and turn me into a felon for something I legally bought and paid for.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next witness now. Welcome to the committee. I believe we have Captain Derek Bork from the State Police. You have 1 minute and 15 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Two of the bills that I'll talk briefly on behalf of the Rhode Island State Police and myself also as the chairman of the School Safety Committee is the first one, the possession of weapons on school grounds. It's very much of a concern to us here in law enforcement. You have to look at the risk outweighing the benefits of having people armed in our schools. My concern is you have teachers, custodians, principals that are armed. They never had the level of training that law enforcement has had, whether it's shoot, don't shoot. It could be target acquisition and shooting under stressful situations. So our fear is if law enforcement comes into an active shooter situation in a school, that we will actually be the target because the individuals who are having guns in the schools will be a danger to law enforcement. The other thing concerned about weapons retention. Law enforcement goes to excessive amount of weapons retention to ensure that we do not lose our guns. And if a teacher has a gun in the school, they will not have that level of training, and therefore it will be a gun for all of the students involved. The other one is loaded weapons in public. Having been incident commander at many of the First Amendment rallies here at the State House, we can only just imagine at these rallies if people were able to open carry rifles and shotguns at those rallies, and that would put a grave danger to obviously all of law enforcement and all the people who have the right to
Thank you, Captain, for your
First Amendment rallies.
Thank you, Captain, for your testimony. Your time is up, but I do have a question from Senator De La Cruz.
Sure.
Thank you.
You had mentioned that people carry at these rallies that you are concerned that crime might arise because of it. Now, how many Second Amendment rallies have you been to where any crimes have been committed by those exercising their First Amendment right to protect their Second Amendment right?
Well, there's been we've had a very contentious incidents on the grounds, whether to resist Marxism, Antifa people, and we've had arrested several people for that.
The Second Amendment community.
Oh, the Second Amendment community?
Yep.
We've had no incidents of Second Amendment community, any individuals there, and one of those reasons is because we didn't have to be concerned about anyone carrying a rifle or shotgun and open in public.
If they're outside, they can carry outside.
As of right now, with this loophole in the law, yes, they can. We're hoping to close that loophole for the safety of law enforcement and for all other individuals that are there.
Yes, Senator De La Cruz.
Well, yes. So a question here about concealed carry on school grounds. If there's a police officer and he's off duty, he's in plain clothes, he's allowed to still carry on school grounds. What happens then if he's on school grounds at the moment of a shooting and the state police show up, or maybe the local town police show up? Does that police officer, do you think that he gladly assumes that risk of friendly fire?
No, because the level of training, they know they've been trained to identify themselves immediately, and the fact that if they come upon a law enforcement officer and we're not sure who they are, that they would immediately put their weapon down for their safety and the safety of ours. That's the way the training goes in the state.
Do you suppose that a parent would not do the same, drop their firearm or give it to the police officer, however, because concealed carry holders, they don't just willy-nilly get a license. They have to go through a rigorous process as well. Granted, they're not training for the state police, but it's not like they walk into a shop, purchase a firearm, and start walking around with it.
Well, what they don't do is they don't shoot under special situations. They don't shoot scenarios. They don't do target acquisition. Our concern is they will acquire tunnel vision because they'll be so amped up because of the situation that's going on. And quite frankly, the only thing they'll see when law enforcement comes in is the gun and not the uniform, just because they don't have that level of training, which we understand. But we do that on a yearly basis. Not just state police, all law enforcement by law has to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you very much for your testimony this evening. We'll move to our next witness.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Moffett. I'm calling from Warwick, Rhode Island. I am calling to say I vehemently oppose all of the anti-gun bills. However, I do support S-0507, constitutional carry, and for this reason. 20 states now have constitutional carry. 3 more are on their way to getting it. Why? Because it makes communities safer. 4 of the 6 safest states in this country have constitutional carry. Constitutional carry permits have increased 304% since 2007, 8% just since 2018, yet gun crime continues to drop. For the consecutive year, the number of violent crime has decreased in this country. According to FBI stats, property crime has gone down for the 16th consecutive year. Property crime. That means people are committing less crimes on our properties because we can carry and protect ourselves. Why would you want to stop that? And I hate to tell Mr. Alorzo, but the most dangerous countries in the world, we don't even make the top 25. He needs to do better research. Stop lying to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a nice evening. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds, and you may begin.
My name is Nan Heru. I live in Middletown. I am testifying in support of Bill 73, the Harold M. Metz School Safety Act. For at least 20 years, our students, educators, and parents have lived with the reality of school shootings. Firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens in America. This gun violence epidemic in the form of mass shootings, gun homicides, non-fatal assaults, unintentional discharges, and firearm suicides continues to infect America's schools. Allowing concealed guns to be carried on school property increases the risk that one day we will have a shooting, whether deliberate or accidental, in a Rhode Island school. If a gun must be carried for work by a civilian onto school property to drop off a child, it can be placed in a locked box secured in the trunk during drop-off. Rhode Island is one of only a handful of states which allow concealed guns in schools. Please approve Bill 73 for a full Senate vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hashimo. I would like to ask the caller a question, again, relating to the school gun issue. Would she feel more comfortable with a concealed carry holder walking a concealed gun in school, or does she think it's safer that that person unload a loaded firearm at the edge of the school grounds out on the street in the open public and lock it in the vehicle? Is that a safer situation, does she think, or is it the other way around? That's just a question for me, to her.
Senator Rogers, I am a former Middletown School Committee member, and I would far more prefer that there are no guns in schools or anywhere near our schools. It is not safe.
Thank you. Senator Rogers, follow up.
Just a statement. I think it is far more unsafe to be 5 feet off of school grounds, unloading a firearm, and then when you pick your child up and the reason you're in there, you're leaving and reloading and putting your firearm back on you several feet from school grounds versus simply keeping it safe in the holster, just like the state police policy does with handling their firearms. They know how to do it. They know what's safe. And it's not safe loading and unloading multiple times. It's only going to create more unsafe conditions. That's just a statement on my end.
Do you think that it might be possible that the person loading and unloading could remove him or herself from the school property prior to those acts? That would make sense, and that would be safe.
Senator Rogers, you can follow up.
Yeah, so in other words, say you lived a block down the road. Would you rather me having it loading and unloading in front of your house? Because that's where it would have to be done. It would have to be someone. Would you do it in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot? Either way, it still creates a very unsafe condition, loading and unloading necessarily on licensed concealed carry holders. There are going to be far more deaths and accidental shootings and misfires in this procedure than it is by simply walking into school with a safe firearm that nobody knows you have and doing your business and leaving a legal concealed carry holder. It is far more dangerous. Statistics state that when you load and unload, the increases are tenfold of an injury or a possible death.
Thank you very
That's
much.
a fact.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on. Thank you very much.
On that?
We're going to move on. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds, and you may begin.
Thank you very much. My name's Robert Shattle. I'm from Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm an NRA instructor, NRA range safety officer, and a security professional. Upon listening to a lot of the testimony, I heard the Commissioner Perry. He talked about why in a civilized society would anybody need more than a 10-round magazine to be able to protect themselves. This brought me back to a memory of watching one of the Commissioner's Providence police cars burning in front of the Providence Place Mall, where on the same evening, one of the buildings I worked to secure had one of its main entrances smashed in, glass all over the place. We had engineers secure it up with wood to re-secure it, and the rest of the Providence incurred all kinds of damage. This was during a period of time where your average American had to look at many politicians almost condoning this behavior, but what they called peaceful protest results in major cities throughout our entire country burning and leaving people vulnerable to these activities with over $2 billion of damages. This culminated with even one of our leading people now, President Harris, actually encouraging people to bail out the rioters so they could return to their activities. So I'm just thanking God that the forefathers did not consider this something that could be voted on, that we would be able to maintain our Second Amendment rights, to be able to protect ourselves when our institutions and our government fails to do so.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute, 15 seconds, and you may begin.
Hello, my
Yes.
name is Rita Kenahan, and I live in Little Compton, Rhode Island, which is Senator Lou DePalma's district. I'm also a member of our local school committee. I am calling to urge this committee to support important gun safety legislation, including bills to regulate assault weapons, capacity magazines, keep guns out of K through 12 schools, prohibit straw purchasing, and prohibit open carry of loaded rifles and shotguns in public. The issue of gun safety is important to me because we live in extremely violent times. Who could ever imagine that on any given day in this country, we could lose our lives by visiting a grocery store, a movie theater, mall, workplace, or a school, as happened today? And this happens all the time. We need and deserve a deeper and more peaceful world. We need to manage guns more conscientiously, and I urge you to pass these bills to the floor for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dela Cruz.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Is it Canahan?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Canahan, thank you so much for calling. Appreciate your time tonight and also serving the children in your community. Ms. Canahan, just wondering if the legislation that you support, could you tell me, do you know what how the bills define assault weapon, what it would be?
I'm sorry.
Do you know in the bills, when you say that you are in support of banning assault weapons, do you know what the definition of the assault weapons is in these pieces of legislation?
The assault weapons, the high-capacity magazines.
That includes the lethality, the lethality of firearms? Is that what you mean? The high
No, do you?
magazines?
It's okay. If you don't understand, we'll just move on. But can you define assault weapon as under this legislation? Do you know what it's defined as? How we define an assault weapon now?
An assault weapon is used in a mass shooting, and it's six times as many people are shot with use of an assault weapon. I know that.
Okay, where did you get that statistic? I would like to review it.
Oh yeah, it's actually available quite readily. Support gun violence legislation through every town for our safety.
Okay. I so appreciate your testimony. Honestly, I do. But when I'm using statistics, I usually don't use like NRA data or Moms Demand Action. I try to go through the CDC or the FBI. Ma'am, thank you so much for testifying and for your service to our community. I appreciate it.
Oh no, you're so welcome. I'm sure this is.
Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Jason Dubois. I am a resident of North Smithfield. I am also the president of the Woonsocket Sportsman's Club, which is located in the town of Burrillville. I'd like to register on behalf of myself personally and the membership of my club our opposition to the package of gun control bills that are proposed tonight. Senator De La Cruz is my senator, as many of the members, also of many of the members of our club. And in general, the bills which she opposes, we certainly support her in that. And also, there are a number of bills for some, what I think are reasonable reforms to licensing and whatnot that Senator De La Cruz is sponsor of many of, and I'd like to register my support of those bills. To speak. Okay, sounds like I just made it in time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dubois?
Senator De La Cruz has a question for you. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead, Senator.
Oh, okay. Hello, yes, Senator.
Senator, you're on mute now. We traded places. If you could
We
unmute.
traded places.
There you go. Yes.
Thank you, Senator Archibald. I just wanted to say hello to my constituent, Mr. Dubois. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person someday. And I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing for the 2A community and for taking the time out of your busy day to call today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And thank you to the committee for hearing my testimony.
Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name and what town you're from? And you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify, and you may begin.
Sure. My name is Vladimir Kostyukovsky. I live in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And I am here to basically express my strong belief and my strong opinion. Based on experience, I've lived many places in the world. I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen, but I also was born and raised in the Soviet Union, in a beautiful communist tyranny. I've learned to respect the Constitution of the United States and value its the freedoms and rights it grants me. I oppose any more restrictions on lawful gun ownership, which puts undue legal and financial burden on the gun owners like myself and does absolutely nothing to reduce the crime. I support the measures which make gun ownership easier, the reciprocity of concealed carry of firearms, and so on. So I really urge the legislature to listen to my opinion and many of my colleagues and friends and like-minded
Thank you. Senator De La Cruz.
residents of Rhode Island.
Senator De La Cruz.
Sir, I'm not going to, I was going to try to pronounce your last name, but I'm going to refrain because I don't want to offend you by missaying it. You say that you are a naturalized citizen and that you came from the Soviet Union. I'm so happy you called. My parents are immigrants, not from the Soviet Union, but they found a beautiful home here in the United States. So happy that you made this your home. Sir, can you please tell me a little bit about what it's in relation to firearms, what it's like in the Soviet Union as opposed to the United States?
Well, in the Soviet Union, only the military, the police, and the criminals had the firearms. The civilian population was disarmed, and therefore that was one of the first things after the revolution they did and maintained throughout the 75 years of the Soviet tyranny. So it's as simple as that. One of the first things tyrannical governments do, they disarm the civilian population.
Thank you.
I appreciate that in the United States I'm treated as a responsible adult and trusted. The Constitution trusts me to make the right decision and trusts me with ownership of a firearm. So there's definitely a huge difference.
Senator De La Cruz, you have a follow-up? Go ahead, please.
Yes, just one follow-up. So you said that you're so appreciative of the United States because they treat you like an adult and they give you freedoms. Do you feel that these laws or these proposed pieces of legislation that you spoke out against, do you feel that they are severely curtailing your rights as an American or a naturalized citizen?
I think so, yes, absolutely. But number one, they do nothing to reduce crime. This is an emotional response, not based on facts, actually contrary to the facts. And it just makes me closer to being a criminal overnight.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Mike Luciano from Cranston, Rhode Island. I oppose all gun control laws and support all pro-gun laws. Number 406, safe storage law puts people at risk. A homeowner has seconds to respond when the police are minutes away. Bill 414 is misleading. It does ban most magazines because it mentions how they can be readily converted. The question is, who defines readily? The 415 so-called assault weapons ban bans most semi-automatic rifles and many pistols. Commissioner Perry said that most of the guns seized were from people who shouldn't have guns to begin with, so why are we proposing bans? Bill 129 is about a control over may issue versus shall issue. And anti-gun politicians come to these meetings with no statistics. They keep saying, we'll get back to you. Why? This is a public hearing. Then they didn't have weeks to prepare?
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to ask,
go ahead. You can finish. You have 15 seconds. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask, what is the most famous firearms incident in the state of Rhode Island, and who was involved? Who knows the answer to that?
Thank you very much for your testimony. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds, and you may begin. Hello, are you there? We're having a problem with the audio. Can you try to adjust your audio? We can't hear anything. Okay, we'll move on to the next caller. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify, and you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Paul Ford in Wyoming, Rhode Island. I just want to say I oppose a lot of the verbiage in the assault weapons bill, and I think that any of these limiting factors that bills that are limiting what I can do in my own home, with everything going on in the craziness, and I just feel I have the right to keep something ready in my home and not be a felon.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is this the same caller? Okay, yes, please, go ahead.
No, hello?
Yes. Sir, you had a minute and 15 seconds, and when you pause, we don't hear anything. So go ahead, wrap it up. You can, if you have something to finish with, please, go ahead. Hello? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Let's move on to our next caller. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name and the town you're from, and you have a minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Sure. This is Tom Hefner, and I live in Lincoln, Rhode Island. I'm a registered professional engineer. I do not support any of the gun bills that are proposed in the Senate. Right now, these include Senate Bill 73, 129, 406, 414, 415, and 417. And I'd also like to add that I think it's unconstitutional that these hearings are being conducted in this manner when we can't be in the State House to appropriately be heard on these bills. These are constitutional rights. I just don't think it's right, and I strongly oppose any of these anti-gun bills. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name and the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Delamatre. I live in Providence, Rhode Island, in Gail Golden's district. I'm calling to urge this committee to support the Attorney General's package of important gun safety legislation, including bills 73, 129, 406, 414, 415, 416, 417, and 419. Gun safety is extremely important to me. I have 2 young children. I don't want to fear for their lives sending them to school each day. I don't feel even a hunter needs an assault weapon. An assault weapon is a weapon of war. And why should we allow guns in our schools, concealed carry on school campuses? We're one of the few states that allows that. We should feel safe in schools. Our children should feel safe in schools. And we should be proudly leading the way on common sense gun safety legislation. Let's do it for our children. Please move these bills to the floor for debate and up or down votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify, and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Jared Rubin, and I'm from West Greenwich. I'm calling to voice my opposition to the gun control bills. In particular, the storage bill, I feel, is an undue burden on a person only interested in protecting their family. Basically, having the guns stored in that manner would cause me to not be able to really effectively use them if I needed them in an emergency situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Kristen Chambers from Richmond, Rhode Island, which is Lane Morgan's district. I urge this committee to support S73 to keep guns out of K-12 schools. The presence of guns increases the likelihood of accidental or intentional injury or death. More guns does not equal more safety. Please pass S73 to the floor for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Elizabeth Burke Bryant, Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count, and I'm here today to testify on 4 bills, and I will go through them very quickly. Rhode Island Kids Count would like to strongly support Senate Bill 73, which would prohibit the possession of firearms on school grounds, except for peace officers, retired law enforcement officers, or individuals under contract to provide school security services. We thank Senator Ruggiero for sponsoring this bill, and also the co-sponsors, Senators Coyne, Goodwin, Gallo, Pearson, Ewer, and DePalma for sponsoring this bill. We believe it's very important and a very practical step to reduce gun injuries and increase the safety of children in Rhode Island schools. In Rhode Island, between 2014 and 2018, there were 153 emergency department visits, 36 hospitalizations, and 8 deaths of children and youth due to guns. We also support Bill 406, which would provide for the safe locking up of guns. We also support Senate Bill 414 that would restrict the use of ammunition-feeding devices capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition. And finally, we are in support of Senate Bill 415, which would ban assault weapons. Thank you so much for the hard work of this committee, and thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight.
Thank you very much. Senator Dela Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. Very sad statistics. I have children in the school system as well, so I never want to hear that children end up in the hospital because of violence. You had mentioned that 153, there were instances of violence and visits to the hospital. How many of those were from concealed carry holders?
I have the gun-related emergency department data from the Department of Health, but I don't have the specific incident in terms of what I have is hospitalizations and deaths and injury visits that are, emergency visits are what you were referring to, Senator, 103 due to gun-related instances, but I don't have the type of gun that is related to that.
I wasn't asking for the type of gun. I was asking how many of those children that ended up in an emergency room were because of a concealed carry holder?
I don't have that information. I could try to get it for you.
Thank you, Senator.
The answer is 0.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, I'd like to reiterate that I have searched high and low because I want to be clear. This bill is not directed at criminals because they're already breaking the law. This bill is strictly directed at concealed carry holders in this state that facts have proven are law-abiding citizens much better than the normal person. I do want to state that this bill, and I'd like to ask the caller, do you think it's safe forcing these people, whether just before they enter school grounds or close to the school grounds, to start unloading firearms and then locking them up in the public and reloading them? Do you think, I can pretty much tell you, it is much more dangerous forcing them to do this. You're putting them in a bad position. There has been zero facts of any in the United States of a concealed carry holder causing any death or injury to a child. We're not talking about resource officers. We're not talking about school cops. This bill is specifically to concealed carry holders. So this is, and I know you've heard it a million times, this is a solution looking for a problem that does not exist. And as legislatures, we shouldn't be making laws for solutions looking for a problem. We should be making laws that have solutions to problems. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Raptakis.
Thank you. You just mentioned before the 153 incidents that took place. These were all related incidents in school? You said about
No,
children being
Senator.
hurt and going to the hospital because of concealed gun carriers in schools? That number seems kind of high. Was it in Providence? Was it in Westerly? Do you have the breakdown of where this happened?
I don't. I have what the Department of Health releases in terms of gun-related emergency department visits, hospitalizations, and deaths among children and youth 2014 to 2018. So, Senator, I don't have that specific information related to these gun-related emergency department visits that were gun-related.
Sure, but we don't even know if they took place on school grounds then. We're not sure.
Correct. That's correct, Senator.
But I'm sure Elizabeth can get that information later, Senator, and follow up.
I'd like to get that information, especially, Mr. Chairman, from the Health Department, because I think we're missing the point here. And one other issue I want to bring up is that in Florida, there was a major tragedy at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. So you know what the state of Florida did? They made sure that they armed their schools. And it's called a program called the Guardian Training Program, where you have individuals that are trained for over 188 hours, common individuals that are in schools to protect the schools. So I want to make sure that...
Senator, your screen froze. Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Senator Ashenbo. I would like to ask on this study of the 150-something
100 times, probably 300 times.
On the children, what were the ages of what was considered a child in the statistic? Is it 1 to 15, 1 to 20? Well, I mean, school-age children, 3, 4. But what was the low and the top age in the statistic?
I have the specific breakdown for you, Senator. For it was children age 1 to 14. 52 emergency department visits that were gun-related. Children 15 to 17, it was 48 of those 153 of the gun-related emergency department visits. And for 18 to 19-year-olds, it was 53. So those are the three subgroups of ages that come up with 153.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll move on now. We're going to go to our next caller. Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
My name is Wayne Charbonneau, and I reside in Senate District 18 in Pawtucket. I am in opposition to bills S73129, 406, 414, 415, 416, 417, 737, and 742. Year after year, I see the response to criminals committing gun crimes has tried to pass wide-sweeping laws that would disproportionately target law-abiding citizens. None of these laws would have the desired effect, as criminals simply will ignore them, and they do not follow the laws that we currently have on the books. I would also like to support bills S119, 176, 191, 456, 507, 508, 509, 517, and 522.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify, and you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Michael Nelson. I am from Situate, Rhode Island. I am calling to testify in favor of Senate Bills 119, 176, 191, 456, 507, 508, 509, 517, and 522. I'm also here to testify against Senate Bill 73, 129, 402, 406, 414, 415, 416, and 417. Specifically, I want to talk about the Mets bill, Senate Bill 173, that basically eliminates the last line of defense between my kids and an armed intruder. There has been no documented case that I am aware of that anybody has ever pointed me to that would indicate that a concealed carry weapons holder has been a problem in a school shooting situation.
You can wrap it up. That's the 1 minute. You got 15 seconds. Go ahead.
All right. In addition, the assault weapons ban, I'd simply point you to the data from the Clinton assault weapons ban back in '92, which basically statistically stated that there was no significant difference in crime pre-ban and post-ban.
Thank you very much.
Other than this, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Senator Dela Cruz, did you have a question? No. Okay. Thank you. I saw that red pen go up. I wasn't sure. Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Matthew Brown, Tucket, Rhode Island. I am trying to think against most of these votes that change the gun laws. I think it's going to lead things more to people buying things on the street and more of a black market than anything. I think it's just things should be left as is, besides background checks maybe being more thorough. And that's basically it.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Annette Payne. I live in the town of Bristol, Rhode Island. I'm an advanced practice registered nurse. I've been working in the state now for 25 years, and I serve on the board for the Rhode Island State Nurses Association. I would like to go on record that I am vehemently opposed to any gun legislation that's going to reduce my access or my patients' access to firearms. I do not believe that this is going to make our community safer, and I think it may unfortunately have the reverse effect. If anybody would like to speak to me further about that, you can look me up on the internet or call me on the phone. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. You too. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
All right, thank you. My name is Dan Rodrigues. I live in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I'm a qualified gun owner. I have a license to carry and so forth. I find that it's infringement on part of the Rhode Island establishment to put bans on licensed gun owners in Rhode Island to, have substandard weaponry to protect themselves in their own home and so forth. And I find it, unrealistic. Police cannot be there 24 hours a day to protect your own rights. So I foresee that that this laws that you are trying to pass that are not ethical for a licensed gun owner. I thank you for your time, and good night.
Thank you very much. You have a good night. Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Andrew Shaw. I'm from Providence, Rhode Island. I just want to let you know that I'm opposed to all of the bills being introduced that infringe on our Second Amendment. just to give you some background, people purchase modern sporting rifles because they're the Toyota Camry of rifles. They're reliable, they're inexpensive, they're easy to maintain. This bill will be punishing thousands, if not tens of thousands, of gun owners in Rhode Island for being smart consumers and choosing the better, more available firearms out there. I think this bill is a feeble attempt to fool the public into thinking you're doing something about mass violence by playing on fear and misinformation. You're doing nothing to stop mass violence with this bill. You're only outlawing guns that are legally owned by thousands of Rhode Islanders. That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee. Would you please state your name, the town that you're from, and you have 1 minute and 15 seconds to testify. You may begin.
Thank you. Dan Kiesler, Greenville, Rhode Island. I want to testify on Senate Bill 0129. I just want to say what is changing and what's not there. It removes the ability of 18-year-olds to be able to transport firearms to classes or to training or to competitions. It's got no provision for transporting firearms when people purchase them. It's against the law to have them in their cars to go from the store home, from home to the range. There's nothing in there that gives people the ability to move a firearm at all without a CCW. It has an exemption for police officers, which I want to know if we exempt police officers from stress in their personal life, bad marriages, alcoholism. I don't think so. It says the AG may revoke for any time, but it doesn't say what reasons that he can revoke a permit for or why, or that he should specify what reasons they're revoked for. It also, my biggest problem is it goes from shall to may issue, and it doesn't state what conditions that he may issue. It doesn't say what conditions must be met in order to get a permit. It has absolutely no definition to it. It should also specify a reasonable time frame for processing the application, and that's lacking. In the previous bill, it actually, the town police chiefs had the obligation to make sure the person was had a proper reason and was a suitable person, and this bill even takes those qualifications out. The AG doesn't even have to meet those, so it's completely arbitrary and up to his opinion as to whether someone can get a CCW permit or not.
Thank you very much. Senator Rogers has a question. Senator, go ahead. That's okay.
Is he still on the line?
Sorry, Senator, your screen was blank, and then when you came into the picture with your hand up, he was already gone. Sorry. Oh, we got him back. We have him back. Senator Rogers.
You sound like a very intelligent firearms guy. What is your background? Are you well versed in it?
Senator, it looks like while we told you that, the call then dropped. We're trying our best over here, so apologize. He's not here anymore.
No problem. That's all right.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next caller. Thank you.